Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so. And as is the norm, I want to extend greetings to all our viewers on the in Region 5 and West Coast Berbice, uh, New Amsterdam, Quarantine Berbice, Mahaika Maikoni. I want to also extend good night greetings to all of our viewers on Facebook, right across Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and further afield. And I also want to welcome our listeners who are joining us on Freedom Radio. So, good evening and welcome to another one of our programs of Issues in the News. Well, a lot is taking place in our country, as you would have been following in the newspapers. We have just, only Friday last, the Minister of Finance read his budget speech for the year 2021, and the budget estimates were laid in the National Assembly, and the debates on those budget estimates will begin next Monday and will go on until they are concluded in about a week thereafter. So every night from next Monday, we will be in the National Assembly, and I want you to join us in those debates so that you can hear what is taking place, what is planned, what our programs are, what our developmental agenda is, and also many of our ministers are fanning out both across the country as well as on television explaining various components of our budget. Of course, APNU, AFC, the opposition, they tried to disrupt last Thursday's sitting of the National Assembly when the President delivered his inaugural address, and you saw for yourself rather, the lawlessness, the lewd behavior, the disorderly conduct on display on the part of the opposition. They clumsily planned to protest the arrival of the president, and they were not even dressed, some of them, for the parliament, but they wanted to make a spectacle. They wanted to disrespect the president. They wanted to denigrate the highest office of this land, because that is all that they are doing in this country. All that they are doing is causing chaos, causing confusion, causing division, and causing problems. Not a single constructive act have we seen from the opposition from August to now. Not one single constructive act. And we know about their destructive acts before August. I mean, that was showcased for the whole world to see. But not a single constructive act have they performed since they have assumed their position in the opposition or on the opposition benches. They have not advanced a single sensible criticism to anything that the government has done. They have not done anything to assist their constituents in any way whatsoever. They keep making one ridiculous public statement after another. For example, they have actually said officially and unofficially that when the Biden administration took office in the US, that the Biden administration will throw out the PPP government. I am the amount of madness that exudes from the mouth of these people and from their actions is that is not believable. You have to hear and see for yourselves. So after doing nothing and behaving like real disorderly rogues in the parliament, you saw the police. After they want to come, the parliament is a place for discussion. The parliament is a place for debates. Yes, you can oppose. In fact, you have a right to oppose. But you oppose in accordance with the rules of the parliament. They wanted to run up and down the parliament like mad people. Up and down in the corridors of the parliament. But that can't be allowed. You either go in the parliament and you do what you have to do in accordance with the standing orders of the parliament, or you don't come into the parliament compound. And that is how it is all over the world. That is how it is when we were in the opposition. At parliament buildings. The police barricade sometimes were past Brickdam police station, was past the magistrate's court. You could not come close to the parliament buildings if you were protesting. They want to protest in the parliament compound. Well, we are not going to have any of that. And that is why the police, whose duty it is to maintain public order and to maintain the rule of law, closed the gate. And what did they do after that? They continued their roguish, boorish behavior. And Patterson, for example, wanted to climb the fence. Well, they were shut out completely out of the parliament. And then they ran around the place now, claiming that they were locked out of parliament. But you know what? Thankfully, we have technology, and we have pictures, and we have cameras, and they don't lie. Why do you think not a single segment of society, not a single segment of society, not even organizations that support them, well, I don't know which organizations support them anymore, but not even their own supporters came out in support of them. They're trying to bring a big crowd in front of the parliament, and they end up with about 10 people, 10 persons. That is all that they end up with. And not a single organization has supported their outlandish action. Why? Why do you think so? People don't have time with madness anymore. People regard them as Shera Duncan, for example. He has a program called The Ring. It's a clown in the ring. That is what it is. He makes no sense. I tried to listen to the fellow a couple times, in all fairness. And I don't understand what he says. His arguments are not coherent. It's racist. It's divisive. So nobody wants that kind of negativity anymore. People want to get on with their lives. You go to Gafford's, you see the store full. You go to Regent Street, you see people shopping. You go to the markets, people are busy. People want to move on with their lives. They don't want to bother with this 32, or how many of them, 31 or 32 of them. This deadbeat group. Every time you listen to them is doom and doom and death. That is all that they speak about. Negativity. And you know what they say, negativity brings negativity. So you stay away from negative thoughts. You stay away from negative people, or else you become negative and you become as dreary and as horrible as they are. And that is the story of them, right? That is the category that they are in. So, but we can't bother with them. So we presented a budget, $387 billion or thereabouts, and according to them, the budget has nothing. 387 billion, the largest budget ever presented. 65 or 66 billion dollars for health, 60.4 billion for education. The last time it was 31 or 32 billion for education. It is 60 point something billion this time around for education. The last time it was about 30 or 31 billion for health. Now it's 64 or 65 billion for health. Public health. And these people say the budget has nothing. Well, I don't understand. 380 billion to be spent this year, and they say the budget has nothing. The private sector commission has come out in praise of the budget. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce came out in support of the budget. The Manufacturing Association came out in support of the budget. AmCham came out in support of the budget. The Berbice Chamber of Commerce came out in support of the budget. FITOG, the largest trade union movement in the country, came out and support the budget. The small parties said that they are happy that their inputs were incorporated into the budget. Ralph Ramkaran wrote a whole article saying that the budget is good. So the only people who say that the budget is visionless, guesses who? Well, you guess right, the visionless people. Visionless people cannot see vision, they are visionless. So Harman said the budget is visionless. That is correct, Mr. Harman. You can say no other thing. You are visionless. How can you see vision? Just like how the whole world saw them trying to steal an election, after March 2nd, the whole world saw what Mingo attempted to do. The whole world saw what Lowenfield attempted to do. The only set of people who believed that they were doing the right thing was this same visionless group. 100 countries came out in condemnation. The whole Guyana came out in condemnation. United Nations, European Union, CARICOM, OAS, all of them came out in condemnation. Yet, this group are the only group who saw things differently. In the same fashion, in the same vein, they are the only people who are seeing only negatives about this budget. For the past 5 years, Guyanese were returned to an era in the 80s where the population feared budgets. So in the 1980s when I was growing up, I know I was young, I was a child, but I heard and I felt the fear. I heard how people were afraid when Carl Greenidge would walk in the parliament with his briefcase. And in that briefcase contained a compendium of horrors for the Guyanese people. Devaluation, more blackout, banned food items. Well, when they got back into government after 2015, the budget became a similar thing. More taxes, more VAT, more oppressive legislation, more bad policies, more estates closing, more unemployment. That is what the budget presented. So people began, understandably, to fear, to feel afraid when they were presenting their budget. Today, $385 million budget presented, but no taxes. No taxes. In a COVID-crippled economy, which has debilitated all the productive sectors. So we're not earning and producing as we should. The tourism industry is down. The entertainment industry is down because of COVID. The farmers even of productions are affected. People don't have the spending power that they used to because they're not earning as they used to because of COVID. People are not traveling as much, so you don't get transportation. The minibus man can't make the amount of money that he used to make. So money is not circulating because of COVID. There is a stymieing of economic activities, obviously, and financial activities, not only in Guyana, but all over the world. Guyana is not accepted. So understandably, you have a contraction in the economy, in the productive sectors. Yet, without a single dollar of increase in taxation, we are able to finance the largest budget ever. How? How? Jordan used to say he has to put the taxes on because he has no fiscal space. That was his argument. There is no fiscal space to do more unless we raise taxes. Well, look at how much we are doing. Look at the projects that are in this budget. Thousands of community development roads, major highways, the Demerara Harbour Bridge, all the airstrips in the interior we're going to revamp. And look at the social amelioration programs. ATVs for the Amerindians. Removal of duties from ATVs across the board. Removal of VAT from key food items. Removal of VAT from construction, the remainder of the construction materials, including stone. And on top of that, increase in pension to 25,000 from 20,000. Increase in school cash grant from 10 to 15,000. 5,000 scholarships will be financed this year. Sports ground, the largest sports allocation, listen to young Ramson, the largest sports allocation ever made in the history of this country in this budget. 4.5 billion in the justice and legal sector. Courts are going to be built at Mabaruma. Courts are going to be built at Vigilance. Courts are going to be built on the Lower East Bank. And we will speak more about it as we get to the budget. Yet, nothing is in the budget for these people. And they are all going to benefit. They are all going to benefit. Now let us take public servants' wages. They have held on to that for dear life. Now, normally, we would say 5% for public servants. When we say that, they cost you. They say the 5% is too small, and the 5% was done by imposition and not in consultation with the unions. That we are disregarding trade union practices. That we are disregarding the facility of collective bargaining. Had we done that, you would have heard all those arguments. We did decide that we will not do that this year. We'll put the money in the budget, but we will go to the union and we will negotiate. Now we do that, the same cost you get. Now you not provide money for the public servants. So you can't win. And these people have no constructive arguments to put forward. Anything they put forward, we can answer. Anything they put forward, we can answer. So what they are left with now is the race card. So that is what they are playing whole day. So you have this fella, Sherrod Duncan, last night I was listening to him. So what he does, he sits down and he plucks out conveniently projects from certain communities, and he also plucks out projects from other communities. So he goes to the Indo-Guyanese communities and he plucks out a major project. And he says, look, East Berbice Quarantine get this major project, 2 billion. And then he goes to Buxton and he selects that 2 million was spent on Buxton Cricket Ground. And he holds that up. Do you understand what he's doing? And he does that right across. He doesn't tell you that the 2 million that was spent in Buxton, that Buxton is the only village that got the 2 million on the entire East Coast. So Annandale didn't get it, Lusignan didn't get it, Trasway didn't get it, Enmore didn't get it, Enterprise didn't get it, but Boxton got it. You see the spin? That is what he's doing. And that is what they are doing. But that's all that they can do. So they go to Essequibo in an Indo-Guyanese populated area, they look at the budget and they find that there's a well being built there. And then they go to some Afro-Guyanese community and they choose a small project and they highlight that small project. While this place is getting a well, this place is getting a school fence. The well cost $5 million, the school fence cost $1 million. And that is the skewed, divisive, racist mantra that they are preaching about the budget and about this country. Why they're doing that? Because that is all that they have. They have no track record. They have no policies. They have no alternative that they can offer of substance or sense. The only card that they have in the pack is that of race. So that is the racial card that they are playing whole day. So the police shoot somebody. If it is an Afro-Guyanese, it becomes a race issue. The police shoots an Indo or an Amerindian person, they don't care. They don't care, no comment. But let the police shoot an Afro-Guyanese, and they've gone back to the old bogey story that they have created from the last administration. About 4,000 black youths died, an extrajudicial killing, and they start that whole horrible cycle that they have fabricated. That is what they're doing. Spewing the pot of racism whole day, all day. But you know what? The Guyanese people are intelligent, and not all of them are falling for this now. Not all of them are falling for this. So the budget, we can speak on the budget for hours. In every sector that you look at, there is huge items that you can speak about, as well as you can speak about programs to cater to targeted members of our society, right across the board, beginning from the Amerindian areas, right across to Afro-Guyanese communities, Indo-Guyanese communities, and every other community in the country. Our budget is based upon needs, objective needs assessment, not upon ethnic and racial peculiarities. That is not a criteria. So when we develop a facility, we develop it for the whole country. And we have specific programs to target specific communities, to attract investments to those communities, to create jobs. So the usual thing, they will tell you, where is the job creation? Well, what a government has to do is, you can't have a policy in the budget called job creation and just create jobs in isolation. What a government has to do is to prepare the economy, prepare the country to make it conducive for jobs to be created. And that is what the government is doing. By creating, first of all, by the capital expenditure of such huge volume, when this money is going to be spent on all the government financed and government executed capital projects, who will be employed in these projects? Ghosts and zombies? Is it not Guyanese who will be employed in these projects? How are these projects going to become reality? Where the construction materials will come from? Not from the stores in Guyana, if they are available locally. And who supply the stores? with locally produced goods. Not Guyanese who are employed. Isn't that how employment is created? And that's only for the government projects. But what the budget does not even mention is the tens of thousands of jobs that are going to be created because of the foundation laid by the budget. So you have all these hotels that are coming to be built. One by the seawall, one by the Cherijangan International Airport, one by Ogle, sorry. You have that road that is going to open a highway between Ogle and Eccles. The lands will be open up there. You don't think jobs will be created by all these? And these are all going to be, almost all going to be private sector driven projects. Private sector driven projects. You know how many contractors are here from Trinidad? Huge contractors. Do you know how many ready-mix cement manufacturing plants are being constructed right now in Guyana? Both by Guyanese and by foreigners. Who you think will be working at these plants? You think these plants are decorative? You think these businessmen who have invested these huge sums of money to bring in all this expensive and sophisticated type of machinery and equipment, you think they are doing it for decorative purposes? Don't you think they intend to use them? And when they use them, are they not going to create jobs directly and indirectly because they're going to use them in projects? But nobody from the opposition, not one of them, identified a single project and said, you know what, this is a good project. Every single project is bad. And then is when you know that they are opposing simply for opposition's sake. Simply for opposition's sake. And you will hear them in the debate. What should have been done and what should have been done and what areas should have been targeted for development. And they had 5 years just last year. And none of the things that they will tell us should have been done, could have been done, all the things rather, could have been done during their 5 years. Every one of them that they will speak about. But they didn't do it. And they must answer to you why. They must answer to you why. So, the traditional sectors, forget oil and gas, the non-oil and gas sectors in our economy is expected to grow by over 6%. That has to be, that's during this COVID period. Forget the oil. We put that one side. The non-oil sectors are expected to grow by some 6%. Now that by itself has to be a record in the Caribbean, if not further afield, in these pandemic trying circumstances. And then the entire economy with the oil sector is expected to grow by 20%. 20%. 20%. And once the oil price goes back high up on the market, it's very low. For the whole of 2020, it was very low. And it remains very low. And it will increase. And when it increases, more money coming into the country. And that's not budgeted for. Those are extra monies. This year, as I said, we have to lay the foundation. A lot of work has to be done. So the statutory infrastructure for the entire oil and gas sector will have to be laid this year. This year, the local content bill, you saw the consultations have begun, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Petroleum Commission bill, and Petroleum Commission law, a new environmental law, all of that to lay the foundation for the petroleum sector. That will be laid and built during this year. And because our country is going to take off in a manner never seen before, we have to do similarly in all the sectors. So we have to get modern legislation. For example, we have to get anti-dumping laws. We are working on that now. We have a whole set of health legislation. We need a new Food and Drug Act. We are dealing with that now. We need a new, when I spoke about the Environmental Act, we need a new food security bill and another food bill. I can't recall what it is. We need that to bring our food processing and capabilities to meet international standards. Agriculture is going to be our base. We need a whole host of new legislation in the agri sector to lay the foundation for the growth that is going to take place in the agri sector, in the hospitality sector, in the housing sector. As I spoke about this already, we have to create new zoning laws. We have to create the infrastructure, legal infrastructure that will lead to the owning and building of townhouses and condominiums, and that style of accommodation will begin to flourish. So a lot of legal work, a lot of consultancies will have to be executed during this period, because this is the period where we have to lay the foundation. And we must understand that this budget is 1 year in a continuous plan. You can't look at this budget in isolation and look at one sector and see that the sector and conclude that this sector did not receive adequate treatment. It's not like that. If you single out the budget like that, then you will not get an objective view of the budget. You have to look at the budget as a 1 year of a 5-year program. It's like if you start to build a house. When you budget for the first stage of the house, you're budgeting for foundation. The foundation for the house. So a critic will come and say, "But I didn't see you put any money here for roof." That is true, because we have not reached the roof stage yet. We are at the foundation stage. And that is how the budget must be looked at. It is an annual plan going forward to last for 5 years, and then to continue beyond that for another 5 years once we achieve this 5-year targets. So that is how the budget has to be viewed. But it makes no sense explaining that to APNU, AFC, the leaders at least. Either they will not understand it, which is the greater likelihood, or secondly, they just don't care. Whether they understand it or not, they will come out and say something wrong and something that is negative, because that is how they believe apparently they should behave. They believe that it is proper to be disruptive, that it is proper to be abusive, that it is proper to be repugnant, that it is proper to be indecent, and that is how they carry themselves all the time. Very unpleasant and very nasty in their interactions, even on the Facebook. What they say, what they do, how they speak of people, very, very nasty. So we can't expect much from them, so we have to move on. As I said, listen to the other speakers as they speak about the budget, the other ministers, and you will get a good impression. That's before the budget starts, the budget debate starts. And then when the budget debate starts, of course, you will get live and direct. But we have to make sure that you understand in great details what this budget contains for you and for your children. and for the old people as well, and how it addresses the various problems that we have and the foundation that is being laid for the future takeoff or for takeoff of next year of our plan. So that is what I wanted to say about the budget. I want to move on because, I mean, you're hearing this every day in the news, and I don't want to bore you with more of that. I'll be speaking more about the budget on TV in 2 days' time, and then in the Parliament again. But it's good that I update you in what is going on in everyday governmental activities. So a lot of people were impatient and became impatient with the land scandals and the way that we were approaching it. Many people were critical that charges are not being filed in the manner that they wish them to be filed, I mean quickly, and many people have complained that the investigations are taking a long time. And all of that is true. I don't pretend to defend those positions, but those agencies that are responsible for the investigation and charging of people are not controlled by the government and cannot be controlled and will not be controlled by our government. Those are independent statutory bodies and constitutional agencies, and they have a way in which they are performing their functions, and they must be allowed to perform those functions. What we can control is the civil litigation, and you have seen the momentum now in being picked up in the way the government is moving against delinquent contractors who have breached their contracts. So we have sued Bryant BK International with Yarrow Cabra. We have sued Courtney Ben with St. Rose's High School. We have sued another one who breached a contract to build the Ministry of Health. We sued Courtney Ben again for the dormitories at Region 10. You know, these guys just take the government money and they walk off. I have never seen behavior like this. They just took the government money and just walk off. Courtney Ben, I don't know what problem this company has, but has done it twice. Walk off the St. Rose's project. Just draw down the money and walk off. And then the Linden project, just walk off. Draw down a whole set of money and walked off. So the government, taxpayers can't lose all these monies. There are performance bonds there. There are guarantees that we can cash in on, and we intend to. And we intend to get whatever damages we can get for breach of these contracts. Because every time one of these projects stalls, it puts back the developmental agenda of our country. So St. Rose's, by now, by the next school year, should have been taking in students. Yarrow Cabra Secondary School, by the next school year, September school term, should have been taking in students. Those students' lives are permanently set back because they don't have secondary education to go to. And because of their affordability, many of them would not be able to go to secondary school. So you have just destroyed people's lives there, right there. Same thing with St. Rose's High School. So these people are playing with the lives of our children, these contractors. So we have taken them to court. And then, of course, the Bryant Warri Wharf. And I've spoken at length about that the last time that I was here. I see Raymond Gaskin saying that I am vindictive, that he was there when the transaction was executed and it was done under the PPP government. Oh, I never said otherwise. And I don't doubt that Raymond Gaskin was there when the transaction began. I never faulted the transaction at the beginning. I never said it was a wrong transaction to begin with. So he witnessed a proper transaction, that's true. Let him tell you what happened when he left BK International. Let him justify non-payment of rent for 15 years. Let him justify the non-building of the facilities that he contracted to build. Let him justify the non-investment of 6 million US that he contracted to invest within a given time frame. Raymond Gaskin can't answer those questions. Why would I have a vendetta against Brian BK International? I don't owe BK International anything. He never did anything for me. I hardly ever had any transaction with him. I have a job to do. We promised the people of Guyana certain things, and we are going to deliver because the people of Guyana elected us. They elected us based upon the promises that we made, and we will deliver on those promises, and that is what you're seeing unfolding. Then I had to sue him again, the same company, because he occupying a bond on Water Street this time, owned by the Transport and Harbors Department. This guy just moves into the government property, rents it at the beginning, same thing he did with the wharf, then stops paying the rent, and then stays there forever. Remain there for 12 years after refusing to pay rent. And what the rent is? A huge bond for 600,000 Guyana dollars. 600,000 Guyana dollars. That is what a big company like that, detaining public property and refusing to even pay that peppercorn rent. And then I have a vendetta against him. I am the bad one. I am representing the people of this country. It is their assets that are being plundered. And then, of course, we have this series that are now unfolding out of Lands and Surveys Commission. Now, you will hear soon that the APNU, you will see they will throw the race car just now, that the PUP government and Anil Nandlall going against black people. It's just a matter of time. By tomorrow morning, they will see that. Because I served a letter on Brantford, and I served a letter on Sivan's Waste Management, 2 Afro-Guyanese. They will forget the wrongs. So Mr. Brantford bought a piece of land from Lands and Surveys when the Lands and Surveys Commissioner did not have the authority to sell the land. So President David Granger, not Irfan Ali, President David Granger refused to give Ben the power to sell state lands. And Ben, in disrespect of President Granger, sell the state land. But there's one half of the story. What did he sell it for? The same Lands and Surveys sell similar plots of land to Bihari group of companies for 150 million. They sell to Citizen Bank for 132 million. The very Ben receives a valuation for the very land for 65 million, half of what he sold to Citizen Bank, and a third of what he sold to Bihari. He tossed away the $65 million valuation and sell for 13.5 million. Tell me why he should not be be charged. But there's a different part of the investigation which we'll go to in later stage. So, all of that, and this is public property. This is public property. Imagine if the state had sold it for 150 million and they took that 150 million and they buy computers and share it to our children free. You know how much computers we can buy with 150 million? But APNU, AFC will see none of this. They will see none of this. All they will see is race. So, the government moved against Brian Tiwari, no problem. No problem. The government moved against these, you will hear the race card will come. You will hear the race card will come. Then I come to the next transaction. And I have many more. I have many more that I'm going to deal with. The National Sports Commission owns a plot of land where the gymnasium is. That land is for the National Sports Commission. By law, they own it. That land is for the development of youths and sports in our country. It's to locate sports facilities where our young people can go and train and go and develop themselves in sports. Lands and Surveys has no authority over this entity called National Sports Commission. No authority at all. This guy, Ben, now goes and lease the land, take a set of money from the man, Maurice Archer, Savon's Waste Management, leases the land to Maurice Archer for peppercorn rent, and then immediately Savon's Waste Management sublets the property to two companies to carry out commercial activities at tens of thousands of times the value of the rent that he's paying for the government. So he paying $1, he collecting a couple million on this side. And Ben has no authority over that property. Again, you will hear the race talk. That's what they will say. You will not hear that hundreds of young people are being deprived of their facilities, of their lands. You will not hear that of those thousands, 80 or 90% of them may have been Afro-Guyanese youths because of the locality in the area. You will not hear that. But this is one of their friends. This is one of their friends. So when they present themselves as the representatives of this ethnic group, are they? Or are they feathering the nests of a few? They give Brian Tiwari a sweetheart deal. Is he Afro-Guyanese? This land could have gone to the benefit of Afro-Guyanese children. Hundreds of them, thousands of them perhaps, for generations. It now gone to one man. Are these representatives of Afro-Guyanese? But that is the impression that they want to put. And that's what they preach whole day. And there is a time in this country where we have to have this conversation. And I'm not afraid to have it. We have to unmask these people. We are not a stupid people anymore. We are growing, all of our people. We are maturing. We are going to be a first world country with the way that we are evolving. We can't have politicians making fool of us any longer. We must look them in their face and tell them the truth. We must speak the truth. And I keep saying to you, I have said over and over again, I don't want the entire country to support the PPP. That's not my intention. That might be another disaster. Every democracy needs a vibrant opposition. I need an effective, competent opposition that can keep me on my toes, that can keep our government on check, that can ensure that we do not misbehave, that we do not abuse power. These are necessary things in a democracy. I want to be kept like that. I want to be monitored. I want to be scrutinized. I want to be criticized, but constructively. But we need an opposition to do that. Certainly not this bunch. This is a hopeless bunch. Completely hopeless bunch. So I am appealing to Guyanese. Look at your leaders. Look at your leaders. You voted for them. Demand from them appropriate conduct. Demand from them responsible behavior. They come to the parliament and don't go into the parliament, they're going to eat. How disgraceful is that? I don't like to say these things on TV. I don't like to talk about people's eating. But how do you not speak about it when that is what you're confronted with? And they're gone in a room by themselves, laughing and joking and high-fiving. They are not the type of opposition that we need in this country. We need people who are serious about the development of our people, the advancement of our people, and the development of our country. Perhaps they can be changed. How can you leave? How can you leave the constitutionally appointed parliament? You leave that place and you go and you present your parliamentary arguments on the road at a place called People's Parliament. On the road at Stabrook Market. Is this mental health? How can you leave the real parliament of the country and you gone on the side of the road and you're delivering your parliamentary speech there? And you call it the People's Parliament, but as young Ramson said, in the Parliament there was no people there. It ended up just being a freak show at the side of the road. The people who voted for APNU AFC deserve better than that. Honestly, they deserve better than that. So, we have to continue to have these conversations, and we have to continue to discuss the issue of political hypocrisy and political leaders abusing the ethnic and racial problem that we have in this country, and we have to put a stop to it. We really have to put a stop to it. It is the only thing that is holding back our country. Once we understand that this country belongs to all of us, and every single one of you is entitled to share in the resources of this country, and our government is committed to that, and you point out to us where there is unfair treatment, you point out to me, and we will address it. We will address it, but don't condemn before you hear our side. If you see something, you tell us and let us try to address it. We will tell you, yes, we made a mistake. As we did with the One China policy, with the Taiwan issue. We don't have a problem in saying that we made a mistake. In relation to Minister Unesh Waldron, the first day that I appeared in the court, I said, Madam Chief Justice, we made a mistake. And we are not going to waste your time. We are going to consent. That is how you behave as a responsible politician, as a responsible government. You don't go and bluff and waste people's time and make yourself a public ridicule, as what we are seeing taking place. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, I've come to the end of tonight's discussion. I want to thank you very much for spending the last 55 minutes with me. And I want to request that, next week I will not be here because we are going to be in the National Assembly debating the budget. But please ensure that you follow us during the debates and follow us on television and in the newspapers as we continue to discuss our budget. It was a great budget. In fact, in my view, as I said to the press after the budget, it's one of the best budgets I have witnessed in the National Assembly, and I have been there for quite a while now, and I will expand more on the budget as time goes on. Thank you very much. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you and good night.